Hello everyone, it's John Ward with Appalachian Channel, and I'm here in historic downtown Dandridge, Tennessee, one of the oldest cities in Tennessee. And I'm here with Bob Jernigan. He's a Jefferson County historian, been a historian since 2006, and he has an insurance agency right here in town, and he just loves history. I can tell from talking to him and going in his office, he's got pictures of the old city back in the day all on his walls and everywhere. And it's going to take us on a walking tour, show us some of the interesting places and tell us the histories of some of these buildings and what they were all the way back in the early 1800s.
Sure.
You ready to go?
Ready to go.
Let's go.
Well, John, we're standing now at the main intersection in downtown Dandridge. Downtown Dandridge is a National Historic District, and it's an interesting mix of businesses and shops and a few places to eat, and it is a working historic district. It's not just shops, it is actually working. We have a functioning courthouse right here beside us where they still hold court. One of the oldest courthouses to still hold court in the state of Tennessee. Across the street we've got the Vance building. That has been the cornerstone of business since the 1820s when that was built by John Roper. Across the intersection we've got the old gas general store building. It's now occupied by Martha's Market. You might want to go in there and interview them at the Martha's Market. The next building going down the street is the old bank building. The two-story brick building with the purple awning is the old original bank building. Now it's Tracy's Treasures, Lakeside Treasures. If you go on down the street, you're going to see one of the original doctor's offices in town. It's the blue roof and the yellow siding building. That was Dr. Gallion's doctor's office. The dike is in the background. The dike saved the historic district in 1942 when TVA built Douglas Dam and formed the Douglas Reservoir. And the last two buildings, before you get to the dike, are two of our early taverns. Dandridge has four of its original taverns still standing, not occupied as taverns anymore, but they were original taverns. And the brick one is now our town hall. The blue building on the left is the Shepherd Inn. They'll be having lunches there today on Thursday. Let's go on down the street here. This whole block burned in January of 1911. The whole block burned down. So these buildings were built after that period. And I particularly want to point out the Tennessee Bible Drugstore in the middle there. It was built in 1911. And Tennessee Bible Drugstore, we still have an original sit-down soda fountain drugstore, a dying breed these days, and they have great homemade food in the Tennessee Bible Drugstore. You can go in and get your prescription filled and get a milkshake or a Bible burger to eat for lunch.
Let's go in and check them out and see what's going on in there, Bob.
If they didn't wash the pants, that he was to change the zipper around, he would complain.
So much.
They did not clean the clothes before bringing it in.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're doing wonderful. We always are doing good when we can come to historic towns like this.
Well, we're glad to have you.
So can you tell us a little history about the drugstore?
Of course. So this drugstore was started 1911 by Dr. Tinsley. And then he brought in Dr. Bible, which was a pharmacist. They ran this store for years and years. All I've ever heard is amazing things about both of those men. Doc Bible took care of this entire town, which I'm sure Bob Jernigan could tell you all about that. He was the one to come to when you weren't feeling well or had any questions. And it's been sold twice since then. Still ran everything original. Everything on these walls have been here since 1911. Things added on throughout the years, and we're fortunate enough to keep it going.
So you own it now?
I do own it now. I bought it last year. My husband and I bought this store and the building, and we're just very lucky to keep this going. We love it. We love the tradition. We love the hometown feel.
Where'd y'all move from?
We're just from Newport, just about
okay.
15 minutes up the road, yeah.
So was you pretty excited when you found this was for sale?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was very excited. This is what I wanted. It's just it's like a little town of Mayberry here.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I see y'all still do the food, and I guess that's been going on
We
ever
sure
since
do.
it was open.
It sure is, yeah. It's a homemade chili today. It's still the recipe from, I believe it was Doc Bible's wife. So the tradition just keeps going over there.
Well, how about that?
Yeah.
Great.
So Bob, you've lived here your entire life so far, as you said. You grew up here.
I grew up here.
Tell us about coming here when you was a teenager. I bet
Oh
you.
man, I've been coming here since I was a kid. There was a little store on the corner where I bought my models. You know, you could build little cars and models and things. And you come over here and get milkshakes and ice cream and hamburgers, and they have lunch specials. But I've been eating lunch here and getting milkshakes at 4 o'clock in the afternoon most of my life. And things haven't changed much. The decor and the service we get here hasn't changed much. I asked Peggy down here at the inn one day, I said, Peggy, on a typical lunch day, what percentage of the people are local that come in here? And she said, Bob, probably 80% of the people are visitors to Dandridge. Only 20% of the local people, if even that much. So the visitors like to come to Tennessee Bible Drugstore and have their lunch. Hey, John, here comes our county mayor, Mark Pott.
How you doing?
Hey, hello.
John's doing some filming. He has a YouTube channel, and it's mainly on visitors that might want to come to Dandridge. And I told him the Tennessee Bible Drugstore has got to be on that list.
Got to be on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't been to Dandridge if you haven't been to Tennessee Bible. Best burger in town, milkshakes, and the most important feature that they have is Peggy.
Peggy down there at the end.
Yeah. So Peggy knows everybody and greets everybody.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Business here. How long have you had a business in downtown?
My grandfather had the bank in this row of buildings, and he started that insurance agency in the bank in 1920. So we're over 100 years old.
Really?
Yeah. And where we're headed next, across the street, was the gas general store originally. And with Martha's Market, they've kept the look and the feel of the old general store that the Gasses had here for many, many years. This is where I used to come to get my shoes, and some of my clothes was in the old gas general store.
Those old floors.
Original pine floors. Look at those. The only way to get that wood today is salvage. They don't grow that anymore. John, their
That's the fun part.
design plan for this store when they opened it up as Martha's Market was to make it kind of like a mass general store. And we have in the back, it's closed today, we have a little coffee shop, a little sandwich shop back here in the back.
Right, well, great. You were a great visit. Thank you so much. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Got to do a little filming in here.
Yes, we did talk about that.
Okay.
How you doing today, Donna?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. We're gonna walk down the street, but I'll get back in touch with you about coming back and doing just a video on the store.
That'll
okay?
be great. I would love that.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
See ya.
Thanks for thinking about us.
John, the next shop we're going to come to, we're going down Main Street now, is Tracy's Lakeside Treasures. This building was built in 1855 as a bank building. It was the second bank in Dandridge. The Bank of Jefferson was organized here, and the old bank vault is still back in there. It's a beautiful door with all kinds of scroll work and things on it. But
You think they'll show it to us, maybe? if we ask?
I'll bet you we can get a look at it if you'd like to go in.
Let's see if they'll let us take a look at that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Hello, welcome in.
Hey, we're doing a little video, okay?
Of
And
what?
I wanted to show him the old bank door. The door's open, but right now, John, that they use it.
Oh.
That's the old bank vault room where they
Doesn't look very
kept their
good.
securities and their cash was back in there. Before this counter was here, we could swing that door open. You could see the front of it. You'll see a little bit of the inside. There's the name on it right there. But
Well, that's neat.
the old bank,
Yeah.
the old bank vault. So this operated as a bank through the early mid part of the 1800s. This was a bank building, mid to late 1800s.
Probably been in several different businesses since then, I guess.
There's been quite a few businesses come and go in this particular building. John, here's my insurance office building. My grandfather started H.B. Jarnagin and Company Insurance in 1920. He was the mayor of Dandridge for 40 years, H.B. Jarnagin Sr. was, and he built this building in 1950 to move the insurance business out of the local bank, the Jefferson County Bank, into its own building. He brought my father in after World War II and set him up in here in this building and turned the insurance business over to my father. So I'm the third generation of Jarnagins to run the H.B. Jarnagin Insurance Agency here in Dandridge.
Wow, that's good history with your family here.
Next building we've got, this yellow building. This is This was Dr. Gallion's physician's office when it was originally built in 1882. And you see the date up on the top. It's easy for me to remember the construction date on this one. It is now a private residence, but it's been a lot of offices and shops through its history.
Beautiful building.
Town's decorated for fall. They do a great job of seasonal changes of plants and flowers. Back in the back here, next thing you're going to see is a big stage that the town has built. It's being used every Thursday evening right now for music on the town. And there will be a band come tonight and set up on this stage, and everybody will bring their lawn chairs and sit out there by the dike and listen to some free music. On September 30th, on Saturday, we'll close this street down and the Scots-Irish Music Festival will be held. It'll be an all-day long event, and there'll be music on that stage all day long. The bagpipes will be playing, and there'll be all kinds of vendors and booths set up and down Main Street for the Scots-Irish Music Festival. It's well attended, and the people that like the Scots-Irish heritage will come to this one. Our next building is one of our original taverns in town. It was built in early 1820s by John Fain. It is now the Dandridge Town Hall. This property was bought by TVA in 1942 when they needed to set up shop in Dandridge to build that dike, the $1 million dike that saved the town of Dandridge from the waters of Douglas Lake during the midst of World War II in 42, when TVA was trying to get extra power to fuel the war effort. They had to send power to Alcoa, for aluminum production, and the government was secretly building Oak Ridge and developing the Manhattan Project, but they couldn't talk anything about it. And the power developed from this dam was being sent down to Oak Ridge during the wartime effort.
So this is comes all the way over to the bridge, I think. The dam
goes over near the bridge and goes, and there's a parking lot up at the other end.
Okay.
There's a good shot, John, up on top of the dike. If you go up there later, looking back at the historic district, you get to see a lot of the buildings. So that would be a nice shot.
Okay.
Right there.
And I know that I asked you before when last time when I was here, I was interested in this pump station over here, and I thought that was to pump out water from the lake that might have ran over here, but that's not the case, is
John,
it?
The purpose of this pump house and pump station over here is TVA saved the town of Dandridge, the government did, by building this dike because it keeps the lake water out of downtown Dandridge. But what happens to all the springs? There's 7 big springs down here in Dandridge. That's one of the reasons it became an early town and was chosen as the county seat for Jefferson County, is there's a big water supply. That water all comes in on this side of the dike, and the storm water does. So TVA has to deal with that. They have to gather the water back here and pump it through the dike and back into the lake. Hey neighbor, looking good. We're going to see tavern number 2 of the 4 original taverns in downtown Dandridge. This is the Shepherd Inn. It started out as a 2-story log cabin up on the far corner. And in 1823, Shadrach Inman, and I've already mentioned him as having the Inman General Store up there, where it's now Martha's Market, he bought the property and developed it through the years into this wonderful inn, probably the best known of the 4 inns or taverns in downtown Dandridge. There was a time when Ma Shepherd, whose name is attached to it now, served Sunday lunches here that people drove from miles away to come here on Sunday after church to have our country ham and fried chicken, all country, family style, set out on the big tables, and you come in and fix your own plate. And this building became a private residence for a few generations of people, but it's come back to its roots again. The Everett family has bought this property, and they've lovingly restored this old inn building, and is now a bed and breakfast. And so it's really back to its original roots as a tavern or ordinary in downtown Dandridge.
I think it's open so we can
They're
step
having
in.
lunch today. It's Thursday, so I think we're free to walk in and take a look around for a minute.
I heard a familiar voice.
This is Ma Shepherd's original dinner bell. She would go out at noon on the front porch and ring that bell, and people around town would close their doors and come down here and have lunch.
How about that?
And that's her original dinner bell.
So this will be a sitting room for the guests that stay at the inn, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's one of the only TVs that they have is in this room. So if you need to watch TV, this is where you come to watch TV. This is the main parlor. We have a nice piano in here. Sometimes we have somebody playing piano music during lunch here on the piano. We've got a big sun porch that was added on in 1919. Look at the really pretty pressed tin ceilings in here. Different rooms have different styles of ceilings, but that's original construction. This doorway, see how thick that door, that's the wall, because it's a hand-hewed log in there. This is the exterior door of the original log cabin that I told you. This front corner is a 2-story log cabin, and you see how thick the door well and the window wells are. That's because the hand-hewed logs are still back in these walls. Jim? Jim Everett is the owner of the Shepherd Inn. Jim and Karen Everett have lovingly
How are you?
restored this building, John. And like I mentioned before, brought it back to its roots of bed and breakfast. Would be a modern version of what was a tavern when it was built.
Yep.
John, in the heyday of the Shepherd Inn, before the lake was built and the dike was built, the people that were coming here would be standing on this porch and looking down that little cut and valley to the French Broad River and watching the steamboats plying the waters of the French Broad. There was a steamboat landing just down the draw there, and most of the early shipping of Jefferson County took place out of Dandridge on the French Broad River.
And we got the visitor center here. I don't think it's open today. I don't believe it didn't look like it.
It
But,
looks like it. He may be back later. He may have gone to lunch.
so that's an interesting old building there too.
Yep. The building was originally built as the coach house, and it went with the they call it the Hickman Tavern today, but it was built by John Fain, and John built that because there was a part of the stagecoach route that went out of Knoxville, and we were 1 day's ride from Knoxville, so there was a big need for overnight lodging at these taverns, like where I'm standing now, and the stagecoach office operated out of what is now the visitor center, but the stagecoach from Knoxville going up the upper East Tennessee, up into Virginia, and all the way to Washington City, came down Main Street of Dandridge. Here's something very interesting, that almost all businesses had a set of these upping blocks or mounting blocks where you would get up and down off your horse, or your carriage would pull in, and they would step out of the carriage and use these as the steps. Probably the nicest set of upping blocks you're going to see around Jefferson County is that set right there.
And notice we got some brick pavers here. At one time, was the roads maybe brick pavers?
Well, not the roads, but the sidewalks that had been dirt at one time. They did the sidewalks in brick, and this is probably the only remaining piece of brick sidewalk that we have in the historic district in Dandridge. Most all of them have been replaced with concrete, although they do put a brick pattern in it to make it look like it, but they needed a smoother surface than the old original cobbled brick. Hey John, when people come to an Old Town National Historic District, I always want to see a log cabin, and most of them have been either replaced or they've been weatherboarded over, but now we have a really nice example here of an original log cabin. Now, it's not on its original site. It was from a farm on the French Broad River bottoms, and in 1942, every building that was going to be under Douglas Lake had to be either moved or torn down, and the man that was living back there in the White House tore down some log structures from the river bottom farm and rebuilt this into his garage apartment. He could park his car in the bottom, and he had an apartment. Or Bert Vincent was the man who had it reconstructed, and he wrote articles for the Knoxville News Sentinel called Strolling with Bert, and probably wrote a lot of those articles right up there in that office upstairs.
Well,
And the main town spring was in his backyard. Right back here, I'll take you back and show you the main spring. Davy Crockett would have taken a draw of water from this spring in 1806 when he came to the courthouse to get his marriage bond and get married to Polly Finley. Davy Crockett grew up in Jefferson County, was married in Jefferson County. His first 2 sons were born here in Jefferson County, and this is the water where he would have gotten a drink when he would have been in town. It still flows crystal clear and cool today. This one never dries up. Some of the upper springs will dry up in the heat of the summer. This one is always flowing clear and cool.
now is this public access, or what is this property
This
right here?
private property is owned by Jim and Karen Everett, who, from the inn where we were just talking to Jim at the inn. They bought this property. They bought the house here, which was built in 1845 by Shadrach Inman at the inn up there. He built this for his daughter Elizabeth, who was getting married to William Bradford. And so we're actually on their property, but they welcome visitors or local people to come back here and enjoy the spring and the property back here. And it hasn't always been that way. Some former residences didn't want people back here. But in the early days, people may have gone 20, 25 miles on horseback or horse and buggy to and from church, and they would have arrived thirsty and come here to the spring and get their drink. To Flint, the Native Americans, that's been chipped by hand. The Native Americans used this spot this spring, and it's probably why the town originally grew up here, was the Native Americans probably already had it cleared as a campsite for thousands of years. Now, this spring has an important story, legend behind it. The Scots-Irish built the first churches in East Tennessee area. They were the Presbyterian churches all the way down the Shenandoah Valley as the migration path went westward, and it followed the Great Indian Warpath Trail which goes through Jefferson County. And so the Scotch-Irish built the churches, but you know what else the Scotch-Irish like to do? They like to brew whiskey, don't they? And so a legend says that one of the reasons this was chosen as the county seat for the newly formed Jefferson County in 1792 is that there was a Scotch-Irish whiskey still operated on this spring back here. And the commissioners, when they met up there in Reverend Henderson's lower meeting house, actually came down to the spring house and the still house and got samples and took it up to the meeting and passed it around and sampled it, and were very favorably impressed with the quality of water and whiskey that it made. He was a friend of Davy Crockett's, and Davy Crockett either sold or gave this man one of his rifles when he left Jefferson County. And it is on display, that same rifle, in the East Tennessee History Center in downtown Knoxville. And our courthouse museum has an exact replica of Davy Crockett's rifle that came from this McQuistion fellow right here.
What about that? So what years did Davy Crockett live here? Was he born here, or did he move
No,
here?
he was born in Limestone on the Nolichucky River in Greene County. And his father moved here and built a tavern in Jefferson County. It's in Hamilton County today, but until 1857, when Hamilton County was formed, it was Jefferson County.
Okay.
And he built a tavern there. I don't know the year, but Crockett was married here in 1806, and then when he left to go to Middle Tennessee, when he pulled up roots from East Tennessee and went to Middle Tennessee. I don't have those dates, but I could get them for you.
Okay. We were here last year in the fall, and we took some pictures, and I don't know if I still have them on file.
Yeah.
The trees were beautiful.
Yeah.
But y'all lost a couple of trees.
We lost a big maple in the storm last month.
So this is one of the older spots in the town right here, you was telling me, I think.
I tell you what, John, if the town of Dandridge had a tap root, this is where it'd go down. This is the beginning spot for the town of Dandridge and probably most of Jefferson County. Dandridge started out as just a little western outpost on the banks of the French Broad River. And the first building that was built in this area was Reverend Henderson's lower meeting house. The Scots-Irish built a Presbyterian church in 1785 when it was the state of Franklin time frame, and it was right here in this graveyard. In fact, the the members of the church were buried in the yard of the church. That's why we call this a graveyard instead of a cemetery. And the church was right back here in 1792 when Jefferson County was formed, named after Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson. They needed to pick a county seat. The commissioners of the newly elected commissioners of the county met in one of those meetings in the log church building back here, Reverend Henderson's lower meeting house. And this is the spot they decided on for their county seat. And they named it, we didn't want to go down in history as Reverend Henderson's lower meeting house. We need an appropriate name, and this tells us a lot about the character and the caliber of the early settlers of this area. They honored a woman in 1793 with the name of this town, our first lady of our country, Martha Dandridge Custis Washington. Her maiden name of Dandridge they picked as the name of their new town, and it's the only town in the country named Dandridge.
How about that? So we're going to be coming back and going and trying to do some of the individual tours and try to get with you that you come back and let us film some more.
Be glad to do it anytime, John.
Appreciate your time today, Bob. Thank
Enjoyed
you.
it.
Bye-bye. See y'all next time.